So when it comes to losing body fat and getting very lean, there are a lot of surprises and things that you'll learn only after you've done this a couple of times. And this is why in this video, I want to share with you what I call the quote-unquote hidden rules of fat loss that I've learned over the last 10 years of doing this myself, as well as having helped hundreds of clients. And some of these will be counterintuitive, but it's very critical for your success that you know this so you can finally reach your goals. So let's dive right into it. The first thing you need to know, especially if you're a beginner doing this, is that you could do absolutely everything right. You can follow your plan perfectly and still not lose weight in the short term. And this negative feedback loop is often what's causing that feeling like you're doing something wrong, that you're on the wrong path. And this causes uncertainty. This then leads to more stress. More stress leads to poor decision making, more anxiety, more frustration being built up. And as much as we like to think of ourselves as rational creatures, this does affect us. And it's one of the reasons why people lose motivation and then end up falling off track. I know in my own journey, when I'm going from 15% body fat down to 10% body fat, I have to be very careful not to get caught up in daily fluctuations and instead focus on weekly averages, because things like water retention, which is caused by stress, can be caused by environmental changes, whether I had a bit more salty food or not, when I ate, how many hours of sleep I had, when I went to bed, did I do a workout or not. So many variables can affect that weight on the scale that have nothing to do whether you're losing fat or not. So you could literally be losing fat and the scale could show a couple of pounds extra the next day and you wouldn't even know what's going on. Now, the way you can think about this as if you were a professional poker player and let's say you're playing a complete newbie who has no experience. Sure, that person could get very lucky and maybe win one hand, but that wouldn't really cause you any kind of emotional reaction because you know over the course of 10, 20 games that your skill and your experience will ultimately prevail. And the same thing is with weight loss. Weight loss is not linear, but if you give it enough time, you will start seeing clear trends. And recently I've done a survey here in the community and I saw that only about a third of you are weighing yourself daily. And there's a couple of concerns here. Let's say you weigh yourself once every 2 weeks, and that ends up being an outlier in a very high day, much higher than you expected. Now you think you're not making any progress, but in reality, if you had all the other data points, maybe you were actually on track. What if that ends up being an outlier on a very low day? Well, then you think you are making progress, but you could be stuck. And this is why my recommendation is to try to build a daily habit of weighing yourself. That way you can get the most accurate data. It doesn't have to be daily if you can't do it. I mean, the more the better. And this will really enable you to think of it as an engineer, to take the emotion out of it. Then you can patiently gather data over time, and then you can make the decision whether you need to cut calories, add more activity, or even increase calories if you're losing weight too fast. Now, the second hidden rule that you need to know, especially if your goal is to get down to 10 or 12% body fat, is that at some point throughout your journey, it's very likely that you're going to hit a wall where things are going to get a lot more difficult. And for some people, this happens sooner. For other people, this happens later. So things like hunger and cravings, which might have not been a big deal, suddenly start getting a lot worse. Your training quality starts to suffer. You can barely get a good night of sleep. You're starting to get more emotional, start noticing more slip-ups, and you start questioning whether it's even worth it. And at that point, a lot of guys do fall off and start regaining weight. And the analogy I like to use for this is climbing Mount Everest. The first 500 feet and the last 500 feet have the exact same mechanism. It's always one foot in front of the other. But to get to the top, to climb the last 500 feet is a very different experience. You have a lot more fatigue you've accumulated. There's less oxygen. It's colder. If you get hurt, if you twist an ankle, there's no help that you can get. There's a lot more stress and everything is harder. Similarly, when you want to lose 50 pounds, the first 10 pounds and the last 10 pounds have the exact same mechanism. It's creating a calorie deficit and making sure you hit the like button in all my videos. But it gets a lot more difficult to stick to that low calorie intake to get rid of those last 10 pounds. So you don't need some kind of special fat burning magic pill or some kind of belly fat targeting program. What people really require is that mental resilience, that tenacity to stick to that low food intake to finally get rid of those last 10 pounds. And this is what people don't want to hear, but it is the truth, and it is the difference between those that get to the goal and those that keep struggling. Now, the third hidden rule that you need to know is something I call playing to stay in the game versus playing to win the game. And this is best explained with this analogy. Let's say your goal is to push a boulder up a hill. And you're pushing and pushing, everything is going well, you're almost there, and then you get hit by a storm. And during that storm, if you try to push the boulder with the same intensity as you did before, you're very likely to slip and that boulder is going to come backwards and you're going to lose a lot of progress. And in that moment, the best thing you can actually do is just to maintain the progress you made. Just keep the boulder in one place, and once the storm passes, you can continue pushing and do that as many times as you need until you reach the top. In practice, what this means when you're trying to lose body fat and you're going through holidays, vacations, and birthdays, often the best decision you can make is to switch your goal to play to stay in the game, which means that you have a fallback strategy where you have good mindfulness around your eating habits, you're making sure that you're getting in some workouts, making sure you're getting in some steps, sleeping the best you can, and really trying to maintain the progress you've already made and solidify that. And then when that is over, you can focus on winning the game and pushing for new progress. I see people put so much pressure on themselves to be restrictive all the time. I've seen guys trying to diet on 1,600 calories for their birthdays. And of course they fall off track with all the temptations, they get discouraged because they think that they have to restrict themselves all the time, which is not sustainable and it is not balanced. At the end of the day, let's not forget why we're doing this. It is about creating a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. A healthy, sustainable lifestyle doesn't mean starving yourself. And what it means is to have a good set of habits in place that enable you to stay consistent, to have a balanced lifestyle that allows for progress with the least amount of restrictions. What's going to help you get more progress is making sure hit that subscribe button below, enable notifications by hitting the bell icon. If you want to work with me as your coach, check out the description below for details. Also going to leave another video here for you then. It's going to help you a lot on your journey. Check out that video and I'm going to see you right there.